as our last speaker, I'm very pleased and proud to introduce our National Sierra Club president, Mr. Mair. Aaron is a neighbor from Albany, New York, and we've been very pleased to have him visit us here in Vermont now and then, and very excited to have him here today. He's a strong environmental advocate, grassroots advocate for clean energy, environmental justice, and we are very pleased to have him as our national president and here today.
Can I say one thing just as Aaron started? I just want to say one thing about Aaron, because he really is the real deal. We've done over the years much together, but the last time that we got to talk in front of microphones, you'll recall, was on Capitol Hill, and it was when some guy from over the other part of the state, a guy named Bernie Sanders, was helping introduce the Keep It in the Ground Act.
Absolutely.
The spirit of Bernie lives on in many ways, lives on in Sue Minter, who he endorsed and is campaigning for, lives on in this guy who all over the country is fighting the good fight.
They often say that low-income communities, low-income people, poor people are the front line and the fence line with regards to environmental destruction when it comes to climate change. The Northeast is upwind from the Ohio River Valley. The acid gas, the particulates burn in Ohio, burn in the central U.S., drift over the mountains of New York, Pennsylvania, and particularly here in Vermont. Not only are we the victims of, as I say, particulate disaster, but the point of the matter is that it is our children that bear the burden with regards to asthma, with regards to ozone, and also our areas where we enjoy for recreation, our fisheries, our lakes, our ponds. Again, the acidification of our lakes, the mercury deposition within our lakes makes the fish toxic, but more importantly, in some cases, it kills the lakes. So I'm here not only as the president of the Sierra Club, which is, by the way, it's 2.4 million members, supporters, and activists, all in me represent that force that's behind Sue Minter. And I'm here specifically to say, as a frontline community in the battle against climate change and climate disaster, Sierra Club is putting its full weight and support behind Sue Minter. I'll tell you why. While presidential elections are dominating the national headlines, I hear a lot of talk about your governor race, a race that has rippled across the environmental movement. It has caught a national attention because this is one of the few states that are doing it right. Vermont has a long tradition and a long environmental ethic, not only from conservation and preservation, but relative to the rest of the country, your state's aggressive renewable energy goals of being 90% by 2050 is the national high bar. And I think you're going to exceed it. I think you're going to beat it before then. And with leaders like Sue Minter in office, as a governor, as a state leader, she will be our national standard bearer in the battle against climate change. You are earnestly working toward addressing water quality. And these are things that are very critical when they are coming to bottle water, but use water as a fracking resource to pollute and contaminate aquifers. We need the environmental leadership that has been demonstrated here in Vermont and through leaders, potentially Sue Minter, to protect our water supply. Your policies reflect your state's natural and environmental and cultural priority. And under Sue Minter's leadership, this priority will continue, and you will not only be a leader amongst states, you will continue to be a leader amongst the environmental movement. Phil Scott is not for the environment. Based on what he said and done, your lieutenant governor claims he doesn't understand the urgency of climate change. Phil Scott has repeatedly denied that climate change is man-made. Now you can see why the Koch brothers love him. Now, I want you to know, Brother McKibben told me don't get too loud and throw the elbows because folks around here, they're not used to those New Yorker preacher ways. So I'll try my best to act like Episcopal minister, but this does get my blood pressure.
Bring it home.
You know, as recent as July, you know, he has questioned whether or not climate change is caused by humans. I guess, you know, he buys that Coke notion that there is a climate pause, that the planet is cooling down despite we're us having month-on-month record temperatures, month-on-month of drought, and right here, this fall, one of the warmest falls on record. One of the warmest falls on record. He has even used the classical National Republican line of, I am not a scientist, as a defense. But yet he takes Coke money. And yet he gets Coke amnesia when it comes to the real factors and cause, which is that dirty money from dirty industry and dirty coal. This is a line that has been used by the likes of Boehner, Mitch McConnell, Joni Ernst, Marco Rubio, and one of my favorites, Ted Cruz. Scott has no plan to meet Vermont's clean energy goals. In fact, his plans are to reverse them. His plans are to roll them back. His plan is to take Vermont from being a national leader and a national beacon of hope, not only in the battle against climate change, but in the battle to save humanity from the worst effects of climate change. Mr. Phil Scott seeks to roll it back. Scott is even opposed to shuttering the nuclear, the Yankee nuclear power plant. I guess he believes that nuclear energy and nuclear fuel are clean energy sources. And I often hear those who are in support of dirty industry claiming that. But nuclear energy and nuclear fuel are probably the dirtiest fuels and the dirtiest sources and have direct effects on human health. Obviously, we can't live near it, around it, or about it. But more importantly, it is so toxic. The cost of disposing of it, as I say, or finding a place to store it is prohibitive. And so to bring and keep it online and use that as, they say, a potential energy source, we are understanding this man is making a deep investment in the dirty energy fuel deal with the devil. He wants a moratorium on wind power. I guess, in his effort to, as I say, promote the drilling for oil and making us, the nation of drill baby drill and pulling out dirty carbon out of the ground. I guess he's worried that toxic wind spills are something to be worried about instead of the benefit and the energy and the true clean power that they generate. But wind power is one of the fastest energy producers and sectors growing in the state of Vermont, along with, as we saw, solar. And more importantly, it's one of the leading models, because here you have worker cooperatives. When we talk about just transition, how we can move workers from the dirty power sector to the clean power sector, Vermont is a national leader with its worker cooperatives, showing that workers can not only be working for the means of production, but own the mean production, lower costs, provide cheap, affordable, clean energy, and prove it to be so. This is a serious threat to dirty power. They want you to believe that your energy bills will go up and your lights will go off. But clearly, when we have examples here where workers are not only keeping the energy bills low and the power on, but more importantly, they are paying living wages. Don't get too excited. I got to realize I'm in Vermont here. I have to do my Chuck Bush, please clap. But, this is representative of a national problem. The Koch brothers have seen an opportunity to buy this governor, and buy your government, and buy your democracy. And they seek to do that through an ally like Mr. Scott. And I call upon Vermonters to reject this prophet of dirty energy, this leader of dirty power and dirty money influence. The Republican Governors Association, an organization which they are the largest funders, have already spent $1.5 million to put someone here to advance their oil agenda. But we cannot let this happen. We as the people of Vermont, we as the sea of humanity, but we within the climate movement have a vested stake in making sure this state remains the clean energy leader and keeping up its clean energy tradition and making clean, affordable power. Vermont is not immune to the effects of climate change, as we've said. You remember Tropical Storm Irene is one example. Right now, as we said, we have early spring thaws, later winter freezes. Our maple and spruce and fir trees are all being affected. In fact, one of the other industries that are being affected by the climate change is your syrup production, which is something my daughters and I travel regularly here. So I guess we have to get here a little bit earlier. But, you know, we cannot put someone in office who questions the validity of climate change or the fact that it's being caused by the release of CO2 that is a direct result of burning fossil fuel. And more importantly, taking money and being financed by those in the carbon industry, as I said, that will profit from the burning of that fuel, but also will aid in the destruction of our humanity. Vermont's environmental candidate and leader is Sue Minter. Sue Minter has a background as a planner and will ensure that Vermont is on a path to help to achieve our green and clean economy. And she'll be modeling programs not only from other states and be a leader for other states, but she will set examples by, as I say, showing how to reduce peak demand 10% over 5 years. The focus will reduce Vermont's dependence on the dirtiest of fuels, but more importantly, continue to save ratepayers money. Again, investing in Sue, electing Sue will reduce your energy bills. But more importantly, is an installment in a down payment for a clean energy future. She will also work across the region, and this is why we need her in New York, and we need her for this entire region, to, as I say, expand RGGI, and to, as I say, also reduce transportation fuels. On clean water, Sue is the only candidate with a clean water plan to increase our clean water infrastructure, wastewater, stormwater, and drinking water. As was mentioned, we have a drought. Water stewardship is critical. And the last thing we need is a person who's a proponent of, as I say, dirty fuels, and who might be a source of trying to sell our drinking water or fracking water. So we need to put Sue in power. It's up to all of us and all of you this November. This November, we need to work hard to ensure that we have people in office like Sue Minter that understand the value of clean water, healthy forests, the state of Vermont, as well as clean energy. Not only is this important for the health of every Vermonter, but it will also support a thriving recreational economy. Right now, these pipelines that are crisscrossing the Northeast, if we can have them stop at the border of New York and Vermont and make sure they never get to the Atlantic, we will make a huge dent, as they say, in the demand and the supply for dirty fuels. So now it's a call to action. If you want a candidate who will not be bought by big oil and who will continue to grow our renewable energy portfolio and infrastructure and fight climate change, I'm asking Vermonters to go and vote early for Sue Minter, and knock on your neighbors' doors, and also talk to your neighbors. Call, but be engaged to put Sue in office. And let me talk about that money. And just recently, the IMF, you know, the World Bank, did an analysis on First Nation and First World Nations subsidies to oil. It's over $10 trillion. $10 trillion subsidies by First World Nations to basically back and keep dirty fuels that are killing the planet going. Imagine if we shift that to clean energy and moving it toward a clean economy. Yeah. The viability of making these subsidies go to clean energy and shifting that paradigm begins here at this state, which, as I say, gave us 350.org, gave us some of the leading edge and fighting edge, and as say, to save humanity against the worst effects of climate change. But more importantly, we need to keep that fight going, and we need Sue Minter as our standard bearer. Thank you for your time.
Before we finish up, I just want to mention that there are a number of candidates who are here, candidates for state rep and state senate. Every one of these candidates that is here has been endorsed by the Sierra Club chapter for their races this fall. So thank you all for